One Baton Rouge police officer fired, another suspended 2 years after the fatal shooting of Alton Sterling. Tonight on the WDSU News Hot Seat, we examine the decision to discipline the officers involved in that shooting, and we also analyze newly released body camera video of the shooting and talk about a big topic nowadays, use of force. Tonight, I'm joined by two familiar faces, security expert Mike Kahn and legal analyst and defense attorney Robert Jenkins. Thank you all both for being here. Robert, let's start with you. You know Jeff Landry, the Attorney General, professionally and personally. Are you surprised by the state's decision not to prosecute?
Well, no, I'm not surprised because we talked about it, as I said, more than a year ago. Based on the facts, what happened, and what we looked at on the video, I didn't think that any charge would become federal or state, so no, I'm not surprised.
What about the decision not to take this to a grand jury? Does that surprise you? We've all seen the video now that's been released, and we're going to look at it through this segment, but to not take this to a grand jury, does that open the door for questions? Well,
it's going to open the door for questions in terms of the emotion behind it, but the fact is, when you look at that video, you look at it from the legal sense and what the law is, Mr. Landry and the federal government did the right thing. And they can't say it was under the Trump administration because it came under the Obama initially where they denied prosecution. So no, I don't have any problem with that.
Let's talk about the timeline for the federal government here. This happened in the summer of 2016. It was still when President Obama was in office. Loretta Lynch was the Attorney General. Then Donald Trump was elected, and now it's Jeff Sessions. So this federal investigation spanned two presidents, two attorney generals. Jeff Landry has been the state's Attorney General since then. Talk about the police here. We discussed this at length with you, Mike, and you're an expert on a lot of things like this when it comes to police tactics and use of force. You talked about their use of force, but while people may question their tactics, you told us this initially. You didn't see a crime that could be committed here by the officers.
Correct, exactly. You know, the officers received a call where you had an eyewitness stating there was a gentleman out there who was armed and had a gun on him. They approached the individual is non-compliant. Later we find out from the toxicology that he was on OxyContin, he was on cocaine, he was on methamphetamine, and he was drinking alcohol. These things give you the strength and force of 2 or 3 people. So one, that he was non-compliant, he didn't seem to understand their commands, and when they went to go hands-on with him, he started fighting with them, and he continued to fight. At one point, the officer manipulated what he believed to be a weapon, which it turned out to be a handgun in his pocket. He was going for that weapon also. The officer then used his firearm to try and neutralize the situation.
Blaine Salamone is the officer who opened fire. He was fired. Howie Lake was suspended. He's actually back on the job after a 3-day suspension. As of this week, when you look at the body camera video, Salamone used a lot of graphic language. They said he may have been aggressive in his tone towards Alton Sterling. But is there a fine line between that kind of behavior, which got him fired from the police department, but prosecutors declined charges against him on the state and federal level?
Correct. The prosecutors are looking at the actual law and was a violation committed in the law, not his actions. So being a police officer, you have the act of professionalism where you have to maintain a decorum no matter what's going on. And it's part of your training that helps you develop that and maintain that when you're in a hostile situation. He did not continue to act that way and acted more on an emotional side, and that's why you see the suspension of one and the termination of another, but it wasn't a criminal act in what transpired.
Do you agree, Robert? I mean, you've handled a lot of defense work. Defense lawyers are representing these officers, one former, one current right now, but is this the crux of it? Is it bad police work possibly, but no crimes committed?
Well, no crime was committed, for sure, in my opinion. It could be negligence, but I think that the police officer was terminated. He's going to appeal that decision, and you may see him back on the force based on what he did and what was going on at the time he was in a struggle. So it's not over for him. He's going to appeal that, and I don't think that it's the end of it.
The police chief, Mike, in Baton Rouge, there's a lot of tension in that city with police and the community because a lot of people were upset with the decision by Jeff Landry not to file charges. What do police do? Is there anything they can do to try to make amends or to have a better relationship with the community in that city? And is that a trickle-down effect across the state?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because Chief Murphy Paul was just appointed to that position by the mayor.
This didn't happen when he was there.
Right. He was recently appointed to that position. And I think that Chief Murphy Paul did a great job on the interview. I think that he articulated exactly what transpired. He went through it piece by piece and explained that people may be upset emotionally from this, but it was a correct legal decision in what happened. So I think that he'll be a good conduit to the community to kind of further this along with the mayor.
Let me ask you both this. Murphy Paul said at that press conference last week, and I was there in Baton Rouge, that people have to stop resisting, which was a line that jumped out at people, that if the officers are trying to arrest you or trying to question you, stop resisting. A lot of people said he was right for saying it, but others said, you know what, wrong place, wrong time. What do you think about that?
You know, you can resist an illegal arrest. Okay, in this situation, you're dealing with an individual who, again, was on methamphetamine, he was on cocaine, he was drinking, he had marijuana in his system. You have got to be complicit with the police's instructions. It's a safety issue. The police want to be safe, and you need to be safe. In this situation, you're also carrying a gun. So I think what Murphy Paul was trying to say is you have to concede to what they're telling you. You're in an illegal action right now. It's only going to get worse. Had he put his hands up, let them find the weapon, he could have been charged felon in possession of a firearm if he had prior felony conviction, or just being in possession, and it wouldn't have gone this way.
What do you think about that, Robert, the comments by Chief Murphy Paul?
I said this a year ago, and we still said don't resist, comply, then we don't get to that point. And we have some, I don't know what happens, that people think that they can fight the police or they can disregard it. But if a policeman gives you an order, follow it, and then we can deal with the rest of it later on, just like Mike said. He may have been charged with a felon with a firearm. We can deal with that in a legal sense, but we can't deal with what happened afterwards.
And it's been a big internet sensation over the past couple of years for people to challenge their rights with the police and videotape it. What they don't realize is the police are dealing with situations that are deadly every single day. So you may be that one who's trying to challenge it or push the envelope, where these officers are also being shot at by real criminals and dealing with real criminals who are trying to kill them. And there's no need to try and meld those lines and make it where you can't see clearly.
Just comply, and then we don't get to that point.
Right. Well, people want to see body camera video nowadays, not just cell phone video. Officers wear body camera video. Real quickly, while we wrap up this topic on Sterling, does the body camera video being released, and not just body camera video, dash cam video and surveillance video from the convenience store, does that help the situation or does that hurt the situation? Because a lot of people had never seen that before, and now people are jumping to the conclusion saying, how did nobody charge these guys after seeing this most recent video?
There are those who are going to say that it hurts the police, but they don't understand, again, from a legal standpoint. They're looking at it emotionally, saying they should have done this. When the police went out, just like Mike said, they had an idea that an individual had a weapon. And so they're going out, they asked them to stop and do this, and he didn't, and a fight ensued.
Do you think the video is that the proper thing to release it? And do you think it helps the situation, or do you think it just inflames it more?
I'll be honest, I think that body cams are being released now within 24 to 48 hours of a shooting by a lot of cities and states. And I think that it helps immediately, so everything is transparent. And people, again, if we all look at a video, we're all going to see different things in that video. But right away, it puts it out there for the transparency, and you can see what's going on. I think it's a good thing.
And nothing to hide.
All right, let's shift gears here really quickly. We haven't talked to you all in a while about this at length. Travis Boyce is now not an accused cop killer. He's a cop killer. He was convicted about 2.5 weeks ago for killing Officer Darrell Holloway in the summer of 2015. Let's talk legally first with you, Robert. This was a wild trial, if you will, because the evidence was so overwhelming against Travis Boyce. Were you surprised the jury deliberated for an hour? Because most people thought this would be 15 or 20 minutes before they came back with guilty of murder.
Well, what they did, in my opinion, was they gave him the benefit of the doubt. They went through the witness testimony, especially the doctors. But what hurt him more than anything was his own phone calls and what he was talking about the night before and before that. So, no, I wasn't surprised that it took that time. But, again, I didn't think he had much of a chance in his defense.
And just to recap the Travis Boyce case, his defense team, led by Billy Southern, who is a well-known defense attorney, said, not guilty by reason of insanity here, but prosecutors played these jailhouse tapes. You were a longtime New Orleans police officer. This isn't the first time that people have been caught making phone calls and getting in trouble, because they played these in court where Travis Boyce was talking on the phone, and you could see the jury really didn't buy the fact that he was insane because he was making phone calls as the trial was going on.
And Travis, it happens all the time, and Robert sees it all the time also. He was actually on the phone the night before. His girlfriend had gotten a summons or an affidavit to appear in court. He was explaining what a bench warrant was and explaining that there wouldn't be a warrant for arrest, and went through and articulated what happens with that. You couldn't be insane and do that, but it happens all the time. They get complacent and they start talking during these conversations that are being monitored and brought back in.
All right. Really quickly, last topic we're going to talk about with you two when it comes to crime and law enforcement here is what happened on Friday. A state police officer uptown was on a stakeout and a 13-year-old kid tried to get in the car. The officer shot once. The kid ran off. He was later caught. But does that surprise you that a 13-year-old was either trying to break into the car and or steal the car?
No, because we see it every day. They're coming in so young, it doesn't surprise me. But I've said it before, and even as a defense attorney, I think the laws for the juveniles are too lax. They need to be tougher. And that's the only way we're going to stop this situation with juveniles committing these crimes.
Do you feel the same way? I mean, this officer was on a stakeout. He shot once and missed, according to everything that's come out publicly. But is it surprising to you, dealing with law enforcement in the city, that you have kids that appear to be, at least allegedly, this brazen?
Not at all. Robert's completely right. I mean, what we see a lot of times is where there's an uptick in crime, they'll look at the truancy operations and cracking down on that and monitoring what's going on with juveniles. It happens every day. You know, there was an armed robbery at one point with an individual uptown against a well-known builder, and the kid was 11 years old who had armed robbed these people. And this is going back several years. But it is kids that young doing this.
And the one thing they tell us is that, well, I'm going home because I'm a juvenile. And you see, so they know that.
Right.
And that's why the problems come in. We got to get tougher.
The district attorney spoke out about this recently, saying they need to get tougher. Is getting tougher the answer, or is helping kids to get education reform, is that the key?
Listen, we've been doing education reform for decades, and it's not working. And I know it seems odd coming from me, but I see it every day. Not only we have to get tougher, we have to also make parents more responsible. And I've talked about that.
That's a huge thing. Robert's right. You really do. There has to be a responsibility from the parents. And you do have to get tougher with the crimes and with the convictions and the penalties. But we also have to do something in the community to give them an option other than these things that are taking place. Robert has been an advocate for that for a long time and is completely correct on this.
All right. I wish we had more time. Security expert, former NOPD officer Mike Kahn, legal analyst, defense attorney Robert Jenkins. We appreciate your time on all of these topics. Travis Boyce, the shooting on Friday, as well as the Alton Sterling case. I'm Travers Mackel. This is The Hot Seat. Let's send it back to you at the news desk.